You can't pay your rent. The towering alien woman confronts the human. Calyx Station floated above the blue storms of the gas giant like a ring of metal and light. From the outside, it looked calm. From the inside, it felt like a machine always one power surge away from failing. On one of the lowest decks, in a small, rust-stained living unit, a human named Jaren Holt stared at a red hologram above his bunk. Notice, payment failure, final warning. Debt, 3 cycles overdue. Creditor, Matriarch Lasara Volan. The red light painted his face like fresh blood. 3 cycles, he whispered. You've got to be kidding me. He tried to scroll the message away, but the warning followed his hand, refusing to disappear. Numbers spun in front of his eyes. Negative balances. Late fees. Penalties. All of it circled one name. Lasara Volan. Everyone on Calyx knew that name. She owned factories, trade docks, entire sections of the habitat rings. People said she could shut down your oxygen if she woke up in a bad mood. No one knew if that last part was true, but no one wanted to test it. Jaren sat on the edge of his bunk. The mattress creaked under his weight. He had come from Earth a year ago, chasing stories of easy money on the frontier. What he found instead were long shifts in maintenance tunnels, broken machines, and pay that vanished into station fees. His job as a tech barely covered food and basic air. When his sister back home had gotten sick and he sent most of his credits for her treatment, everything had fallen behind. Rent, power, water. All of it. And now the debt belonged to Lasara. The unit was small. 1 bunk. A sink. A wall screen that only worked half the time. A single round window with a foggy view of the glowing gas giant below. No space for dreams. No space for mistakes. His comm unit chimed. He glanced at the display, and his stomach dropped so fast it felt like the gravity had failed. Incoming, priority link, Lasara Volan admin node. His first instinct was to ignore it. To pretend he was out. To pretend the message had not arrived. But this was Calyx Station. Nothing here was ever truly ignored. He took a deep breath and accepted the call. The air in his unit shimmered as a tall, semi-transparent figure formed in front of him. Even as a hologram, she seemed huge. Lasara Volan. Her skin was a deep sapphire blue, with faint glowing lines tracing along her throat and jaw. Her hair looked like liquid metal, falling past her shoulders in smooth, shining waves. Her eyes were bright white with tiny moving stars inside them, like trapped galaxies. Jaren Holt, she said, her voice low and calm. It had a strange echo, as if more than one tone lived inside it. You have failed to meet your habitat payments for 3 full cycles. Jaren stood up, even though she was only a projection. It felt wrong to stay sitting. I know, Matriarch. I'm trying to. You are out of extensions. The glowing lines on her skin pulsed once. Our agreement was very clear. He swallowed. His throat felt dry. If you give me a little more time, I can. Her expression did not change. She studied him with a cool, searching gaze that made his skin prickle. Are you in your unit now, Jaren Holt? He hesitated. Yes. Good. She tilted her head. Stay there. I am on my way. The hologram vanished. For a few seconds, Jaren simply stood there, staring at the empty air where she had been. Then the panic hit him like a wave. On her way, he muttered. Here. To me. He looked around his unit. A dirty mug on the floor. Tools scattered across the table. A shirt hanging from a pipe. It was a mess. A very human mess. He rushed to clean, his hands shaking. The mug went into the sink. The tools into a drawer. The shirt into the storage box under the bunk. He wiped at the table with his sleeve, even though it changed nothing. The more he tried to organize things, the worse he realized the place looked. Old bulkheads. Flickering light in the ceiling. A faint smell of burnt ozone from the last power surge. "This is a disaster," he whispered. The door chimed. His heart almost stopped. He moved to the panel on the wall and pressed his hand to it. The lock clicked. The door slid open with a soft hiss. And there she was. No hologram this time. Lasara Volan had to duck slightly to step through the human-sized doorway. In person, she was even taller, even more imposing. Her cloak shifted with soft light as she moved, patterns flowing like waves across it. Close up, her eyes were not just bright, they were alive. Tiny lights swirled in them like distant ships moving through deep space. Jaren felt very small. "Matriarch," he managed. "Jaren Holt," she replied. Her voice in person was deeper, richer. "This is your residence." It was not a question. It was a judgment. "Yes," he said. "I know it's not much, but..." She stepped inside without waiting to be invited. The unit felt even smaller with her in it. The door slid shut behind her with a final sounding click. Her gaze moved over everything. The bunk. The window. The table. The single cracked chair. When her eyes returned to him, he felt pinned in place. "You say you cannot pay your rent," she said slowly. "Yet you remain on my station. Breathing my air. Walking my corridors." He opened his mouth, forced himself to speak. "I'm not trying to cheat anyone. I just fell behind. I'm working extra shifts. I can catch up, I just need time." She took one long stride toward him. He backed up until the back of his legs hit the bunk. Lasara stopped an arm's length away. To her, that was still close. He had to tilt his head back to meet her eyes. For a moment, she said nothing. She only watched him. Studied him. As if he were some strange creature in a lab. "You are human," she said at last. He blinked. "Last time I checked." "Humans are famous," she went on. "Your kind has a reputation across the lanes. Resourceful. Reckless. Difficult to control. Full of fire, even when trapped in a cage." He wasn't sure if that was an insult or a compliment. "I'm just a tech," he said. "Not anyone special." Her lips curved, not quite a smile. "And yet here you are. Standing in debt. Refusing to run. Looking me in the eye." He realized he was looking her in the eye. Most people, he knew, would look at the floor. "Running never helped anyone on a station," he said quietly. Lasara leaned down a little, closer to his level. There was a faint, clean smell around her, like cold air after a storm. "You are out of time, Jaren Holt," she said. "By every rule, I should evict you. Replace you. Forget you." His chest tightened. "Then why are you here in person?" he asked. "Someone like you could just send a notice." For a heartbeat, the stars in her eyes seemed to flicker. "Because I am considering something different." He frowned. "Different how?" Her gaze swept over him once more. "Not cruel. Not kind either. Curious. Measuring. You cannot pay with credits," she said. "But there are other ways to settle a debt. Other values. Other uses." The way she said it sent a chill along his spine. "Uses," he repeated. "You mean work? Extra shifts? Cleaning ducts? Rewiring? I can do all of that." "No," her voice was soft now, almost a purr of thunder. "Not work like that." Silence filled the tiny unit. The hum of the life support system suddenly seemed very loud. Jaren swallowed. "Then what do you want?" Lysara straightened, towering above him again. Tonight, we will talk, she said. You will listen. You will answer my questions. And by the time I leave, human, her eyes glowed brighter. You will not owe me rent. You will owe me something far more important. Jaren felt the floor steady under his boots and vanish at the same time. He did not know what she meant. He did know one thing. Whatever happened next, his life on Calyx Station had just changed forever. Jaren's hands were still trembling when he stepped into Lysara's private quarters. The door slid shut behind him with a whisper of metal against metal, sealing the small but impossibly tall chamber from the rest of Calyx Station. The room seemed alive. Crystals floated in midair, pulsing faintly with soft light. Alien symbols glimmered along the walls. A single viewport framed the swirling storms of the gas giant below. From this height, it looked like nothing mattered outside, like the universe had shrunk to fit just this space. Lysara stood near a glowing console, her hair catching the light in ribbons of silver and violet. Her cloak shifted as she moved, patterns flowing across it like a tide of color. She turned toward him, eyes narrowing. Sit, she said. Jaren hesitated. His throat felt dry. The air between them was heavy, charged with something he could not name. He sat on the low, curved chair, aware of how small he felt next to her towering presence. She moved closer. Even a few steps made the chamber feel crowded. She picked up a small vessel from a floating shelf and poured a liquid that shimmered like starlight into 2 glasses. Drink, she commanded softly. Her voice carried both authority and a strange invitation. Jaren took the glass, raising it in a shaky gesture. Thank you. She tilted her head, observing him carefully. If I wanted to punish you, you would not be standing here. You would be floating somewhere in the vacuum. He swallowed and sipped. The liquid was warm, sweet, and oddly invigorating. It made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. He didn't like it. He loved it. Lysara leaned against a console, folding her long arms, her eyes never leaving him. You owe me, Jaren Holt. But not in the usual ways. Credits are meaningless to me now. Your debt must be repaid differently. Jaren's pulse quickened. Differently how? She stepped closer again. I want your mind. Your thoughts. Your culture. I want to understand humans, intimately. He blinked. Intimately. Her gaze softened, but the intensity remained. Not just your history, your language, your technology. I want to see the truth of humans through you. Your customs, your decisions, your emotions. What drives you? What frightens you? What inspires you? He shook his head. I don't understand. You could just study reports. Watch others. Why me? Her lips curved slightly, teasing but not warm. Because you are human. Unpredictable. Resourceful. You defy expectations, even when trapped. Most of your kind would grovel, plead, or flee. You, stand. Jaren's stomach tightened. The weight of her words, the sheer presence of her, made him both nervous and strangely alive. And if I refuse? Her eyes glimmered like distant stars. Then your debt will remain. You will face the consequences. You may even find yourself outside the station. But if you accept. She let her words linger. Her eyes softened, but the power in them remained. If you accept, you will remain. Your credits will vanish. Your survival guaranteed. In exchange, you will come to me. Spend time with me. Teach me what cannot be written in reports. Share your humanity. Jaren felt heat rise in his chest. He had heard rumors among station residents about aliens taking human companions, but he had never believed them. Until now. SP, spend time with you, he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Yes, she said, her words measured, deliberate. Not work. Not servitude. Understanding. Observation. Exchange. The knowledge of your kind, filtered through your presence. You may even find it rewarding. He coughed, trying to hide the sudden quickening of his heartbeat. And this settles my debt. She nodded. It settles it. In full. Every credit. Every late fee. But only if you come willingly. And only if you do not disappoint me. Jaren swallowed hard. Fear mingled with something else. Curiosity. Awe. Desire. He looked at her towering figure, her shimmering skin, the intensity in her glowing eyes. Finally, he nodded. I accept. Her lips curved in a faint smile. Good. Tonight is only the beginning. But know this, Jaren Holt, once you step into this arrangement, your life will never be the same. The stars outside the viewport glittered like a promise. He had no idea just how true her words would become. The moment Jaren stepped into Lasara's quarters that evening, the air felt heavier, charged with something he couldn't name. The chamber was alive with light. Crystals hovered midair, casting prismatic patterns on the walls. Symbols he didn't recognize glimmered faintly, pulsing like they were breathing. Outside, the gas giant spun slowly beneath the station, its storms painting the viewport in turbulent swirls of blue and gold. Lasara stood near the center of the room. Her pearlescent hair shimmered under the light. Her cloak of flowing patterns glided like liquid, shifting colors from violet to deep indigo. She turned her gaze toward him. The intensity of her eyes made him feel both seen and exposed. Sit, she said softly, almost teasingly. He obeyed, perching on a low chair, aware of how small he felt next to her towering figure. Even leaning, she radiated authority, power, and a strange warmth that pressed against him like gravity itself. She retrieved 2 vessels from a floating shelf. The liquid inside shimmered like captured starlight, swirling in silver and pale blue. She offered one to him. Drink, she said. Her voice had a strange pull, soft yet commanding. Jaren took it, hands slightly trembling. The liquid was sweet and warm, flowing down his throat with a subtle fire that made his nerves hum. He realized with a jolt that his heart was beating faster, not just from nerves. Why are you doing this? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. You could have sent someone else. You didn't need me here personally. Lasara's lips curved faintly. Because you are human. You respond differently than others. Humans have a fire inside them. Even small sparks can start a blaze. I want to see that fire. I want to understand it. Jaren swallowed, unsure how to answer. Her gaze locked onto him like a magnetic force. It made him aware of every inch of the space between them, of the faint scent she carried, cold ozone mixed with a subtle, almost metallic sweetness. He felt both drawn in and dangerously exposed. She leaned a step closer, enough to reduce the distance to mere feet. Even so, her height made him tilt his head to meet her eyes. Your debt can be forgiven, she said, voice lowering into something intimate, almost a whisper that carried like thunder. But only if you come to me. Only if you spend time with me, willingly. Not as a worker. Not as a tool. But as someone I can observe, someone whose thoughts, reactions, and choices will teach me more than any book or report ever could. Jaren blinked. His stomach churned. Spend time, with you? Like, sit and talk. Her smile was faint but deliberate. Talk, yes. Share meals, your thoughts, your experiences. Perhaps, if I wish, teach me, the ways humans feel and connect. He felt a heat in his chest he couldn't explain. A part of him wanted to step back, run to the corridors and forget this entire encounter. Another part, an unreasoning, thrilling part, wanted to stay. To be studied, tested, and, closer. And if I refuse? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes glimmered, stars trapped in liquid sapphire. Then your debt remains. The consequences follow. But if you accept, you will remain safe. My responsibility. Your survival guaranteed. He swallowed hard, the weight of her words pressing against him. Every instinct screamed that he should refuse, that he should run. Yet, the pull of her gaze, the promise in her voice, and the thrill of the unknown made his answer clear, even before he could think it through. I accept, he said finally. Her smile widened just slightly. Good. Tonight is only the beginning, Jaren Holt. Once you step into this arrangement, your life will never be the same. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the hum of the station and the swirling lights outside filled the chamber. Jaren realized that he wasn't just agreeing to repay a debt. He was stepping into something far bigger. Something unpredictable. Something dangerous. And despite the danger, he found a thrill in it. A spark he hadn't known he was missing. Lysara's gaze lingered on him. There was curiosity in her eyes now. Something personal, something electric. The stars beyond the viewport seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was aware of the choice he had just made. Jaren Holt had stepped into the orbit of a being far more powerful, far more fascinating, than anything he had ever imagined. And for the first time, he realized, he was no longer just a human struggling to survive. He was a human standing on the edge of a world that had no rules, and someone was watching him, waiting to see what he would do next. The next evening, Jaren arrived at Lysara's quarters with a mix of anticipation and unease. He had spent the day replaying her words over and over in his mind, your debt can be forgiven, if you come willingly. The corridor outside her quarters smelled faintly of ozone and warm metal. His heart thudded as he pressed the access panel. The door slid open with its familiar whisper. Inside, Lysara waited, her posture elegant, her expression unreadable. But tonight, something was different. Another figure stood in the shadows. A woman. Slightly shorter than Lysara, but her presence was just as commanding. Her skin shimmered with metallic green patterns, her hair darker than Lysara's, cut sharply around her shoulders. Her eyes glimmered like liquid silver. Jaren Holt, she said, her voice smooth and deliberate. So this is the human who has captured the matriarch's attention. Jaren froze. Every instinct screamed danger. He had heard whispers of Lysara's cousin, Cirith Volan, a master of manipulation and strategy, feared in her own right. The rumors painted her as cunning, ruthless, and fiercely protective of family interests. Lysara's expression hardened. Cirith, this isn't the time. Cirith stepped forward, circling Jaren slowly, as if inspecting a specimen. Her gaze lingered on his shoulders, the way he shifted nervously, the subtle flush rising along his neck. I've heard much about you, human. Small, yet audacious. Fragile, yet bold. Interesting. Jaren's stomach tightened. He tried to smile, but it faltered under the weight of her scrutiny. You are intruding, he said cautiously, looking at Lysara for support. Not intrusion, Lysara corrected firmly, her eyes narrowing. She is family. Ciritha's lips curved in a teasing, almost predatory smile. I came to see if the human truly lives up to the reputation my cousin seems to hold dear. After all, humans are unpredictable. Jaren swallowed. Unpredictable was one thing. Under scrutiny by a Volan was another entirely. Dinner was served, and it became an exercise in subtle tension. Lysara prepared dishes that combined human flavors with alien textures, while Cirith peppered Jaren with questions about Earth. Tell me, she said, leaning closer than necessary, how do humans bond? Emotionally? Socially? Physically? Her tone was curious but sharp, her silver eyes holding a challenge. Jaren hesitated. He had expected questions about work, not this. Lysara remained silent, her eyes distant. He felt caught in the middle, aware of the tension building between the two alien women. Then Cirith dropped the real weight. The convergence ceremony is coming. Tradition requires 3 partners for participation. Has your human agreed to share you yet, cousin? Jaren nearly choked on his drink. 3 partners. Ceremony. He had not been told. Lysara's jaw tightened. Her eyes flicked to him, a silent warning. Jaren, she whispered, her voice strained. Cirith smiled, leaning back. Humans are so possessive. Curious to see how yours will respond. Jaren felt a spark of defiance. He straightened in his chair. I am not here to compete for attention. I am here because I chose to be. Ciritha's eyes glittered with amusement. Bold, yet naive. We shall see if the human survives our customs unbroken. The tension was electric. Jaren could feel the pull between Lysara and her cousin, the unspoken challenge, the politics swirling in every glance. And somewhere beneath it all, a thrilling current ran between him and Lysara, a connection stronger than fear, heavier than expectation. When Cirith finally rose to leave, she turned her silver gaze toward him. Enjoy your brief moment of favor, human. Soon, the rules will test you. As the door hissed closed behind her, Lysara exhaled, her strength finally returning. She looked at Jaren, eyes softer but still intense. Tonight, you saw why it is dangerous to be near my family, she said quietly. They test. They probe. They manipulate. Jaren nodded, trying to steady his racing heart. And yet. I'm still here. Her lips curved into a small, almost imperceptible smile. Good. That means you have courage. And humans are more valuable than most think. Even if unpredictable. He met her gaze. Her eyes held something electric, something dangerous, and something that made his chest tighten. For a moment, the storm outside and the politics of the Volan family faded. It was just them. And the unspoken promise that, somehow, he had survived the first trial. And whatever came next, he would not run. The next morning, Jaren woke to a familiar sense of dread. His comm panel blinked red. He swiped it open, and froze. Access denied. New assignment, lower-level industrial sector, Deck 18. He blinked. His ID card refused to work anywhere else. He was officially cut off from his old maintenance duties, the only work he had ever known on Calyx Station. A soft vibration alerted him to a second notification. He opened it, hands trembling. Rent increase effective immediately. Multiplied by 3. His mind reeled. They had moved quickly overnight. Everything he had worked for, his salary, his unit, his chance to stay alive on the station, was suddenly out of reach. And there was only one explanation. Cirith. She was clever, ruthless, and patient. Jaren had seen her work before, subtle threats, quiet manipulation, and precise strikes that left no witnesses. Her goal was clear: drive him away, weaken Lysara, and reclaim her hold on power. Jaren clenched his fists. Fear mixed with anger, and beneath both burned something deeper: human stubbornness. He was not going to be pushed aside without a fight. He left his unit and moved to the public records terminal. The hum of machinery, the smell of ozone, and the faint tang of metal filled the air as he logged into the station's archives. Hours passed. Jaren dug through council minutes, property records, family law documents, and historical bylaws of the Volan Dominion. He discovered something important: Lysara's inheritance was legitimate. Every move Cirith made was designed to exploit perceived loopholes, not actual law. There were gaps she hadn't considered, clauses overlooked in the original family contracts. And there it was, a small, dusty notation buried deep in a centuries-old Volan compact. A non-Volan individual may, by formal bond, gain equal authority and membership in the family holdings, thus exempting them from certain ceremonial obligations and restrictions. A spark of hope lit his chest. This could work. The hum of the station shifted as he left the terminal. Docking Bay 12. Private ships. Lysara's vessel waited. The sleek hull reflected starlight as if it were liquid silver. She was already there, standing near the ramp, her cloak shifting with the soft artificial wind inside the bay. Her expression was unreadable. "I know," Jaren said immediately. "Sirith. She's behind this, job reassignment, rent increase, everything." Her jaw tightened. Her eyes, glowing faintly, studied him. "Yes. She wants leverage. She wants to hurt me through you." He swallowed. "Then we take it back. Together." A flicker of something, trust, relief, desire, crossed her features. "Together," she agreed. Inside the vessel, the cabin was warm, illuminated by panels of soft light. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Lysara's gaze lingered on him, curious and intense. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked. "You're stepping into dangerous waters. The station. My family. Politics. Everything." "I do," Jaren said, feeling a fire in his chest. "And I'm not backing down." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Humans are unpredictable. You may be reckless, but I like that." The distance between them shrank, charged with the unspoken intensity of survival, trust, and something more. She wasn't just the matriarch anymore. She was an ally, a challenge, and, he realized, a temptation he couldn't ignore. For the first time since arriving on Calyx Station, Jaren felt alive. Afraid, yes, but alive. They had a plan. They would counter Sirith. Use the overlooked clauses. Reclaim their control. But tonight, for the first time, Jaren understood that surviving was no longer enough. He had to thrive. And thriving meant being clever, bold, and unrelenting, the human way. As the stars of the gas giant shimmered outside the viewport, he met Lysara's gaze. The unspoken promise was clear: together, they could overcome anything, even a cunning Volan cousin hellbent on tearing them apart. The fire had been lit. The game had begun. 3 days later, the council chambers of Calyx Station buzzed with tension. Aliens from countless worlds filled the seats, their eyes flicking toward the front where Lysara Volan stood. Her silver and indigo robe shimmered under the chamber lights, emphasizing her height and calm authority. Beside her stood Jaren Holt. Small in comparison, but determined, his gaze steady and unwavering. Whispers rippled through the assembly. Humans rarely attended council proceedings. Humans rarely challenged centuries-old customs. Humans rarely stood beside the Volan matriarch herself. Sirith Volan sat among the council members, her gaze sharp, calculating, and dangerous. Her silver hair gleamed like a blade under the lights. She leaned forward, voice smooth and cutting. "This is outrageous. The human stands as your sole partner? Do you insult our traditions, cousin?" Lysara's voice rang clear and strong. "Traditions evolve, Sirith. Customs exist to strengthen connection, not to stifle understanding. I will attend the upcoming convergence ceremony with one partner. Jaren Holt, human of Earth." A gasp spread through the chamber. Some council members murmured outrage. Others were silent, watching closely. Jaren stepped forward slightly, heart hammering. The weight of hundreds of eyes and centuries of tradition pressed on him. He had no noble status, no family legacy, no authority beyond what Lysara had granted him, but he had one thing the council couldn't ignore: human courage and reasoning. He spoke slowly, deliberately, meeting the gaze of every member he could. "I am an outsider to your traditions," he began. "But humans have always survived by learning, adapting, and questioning the rules that no longer serve the greater good. What we share, me and Lasara, is not a challenge to culture. It is a bridge between worlds. It is understanding. It is respect, asterisk asterisk. A few murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. Some council members looked shocked, others intrigued. Siritha's expression darkened. She rose abruptly. This is blasphemy. One partner, a human no less, mocks centuries of sacred ritual. You must be stopped. Jaren held his ground. His pulse raced, but his voice remained firm. We are not mocking. We are proving that connection, true connection, is more important than numbers or appearances. Humans know that understanding across differences is strength. Strength that has built civilizations. Strength that can guide Calyx Station into a new era. The room fell silent for a heartbeat, then a low hum of agreement spread among several council members. Even some older, conservative Volans seemed to consider his words. Lasara reached for Jaren's hand. Their fingers brushed, and the simple contact carried a weight neither of them could deny. There was trust, courage, and an electric tension between them. Something intimate, something unspoken. Sirith slammed her fist on the table. Enough. I propose that the council censure Matriarch Volan for disrespecting tradition and bar her from attending the ceremony. Voices erupted, some in support, others in opposition. Chaos filled the chamber. Jaren looked at Lasara, their eyes meeting. No words were needed. They had faced the storm together. Now, they would face the council together. An elder, pale blue-skinned and calm, raised his hands. Silence. The council will deliberate. 3 cycles from now, we reconvene. Until then, no decision is final. The chamber emptied, leaving whispers and tension hanging in the air like charged static. Outside, station residents crowded the corridors, watching the broadcast feed. Some offered approval, others disapproval. Jaren walked beside Lasara, hand still brushing hers. She looked down at him, a small, rare smile tugging at her lips. You spoke well, she said softly. Your courage, humans truly are unpredictable. And you? He asked. Do you trust me? Her eyes lingered on his. I do. More than I expected. They stopped at the viewport. The gas giant below churned with storms, its rings glimmering in scattered light. For a moment, the politics, the threats, the station's intrigues, all of it, felt distant. Just him and her. Whatever happens, Jaren said, we face it together. Human and Volan. Against the station, against tradition, against anyone who thinks they can control us. Her hand closed over his. The touch was brief, but it sent a surge of certainty through him. Together, she agreed. The stars outside seemed brighter, reflecting the spark between them. A human, an alien matriarch, partners against impossible odds. And for the first time, Jaren felt not just fear or anticipation, but a thrill, the thrill of standing with someone who believed in him, of rewriting rules, and of proving that humans could face anything, even a galaxy of tradition, and prevail. The storm of the council was only beginning, but he was ready. 3 cycles later, Calyx Station's grand atrium shimmered under the soft glow of floating lights. Crystals hovered like suspended stars, casting rainbow reflections across the polished floor. Aliens from dozens of worlds filled the seats, murmuring with anticipation. At the center of the chamber, Lasara Volan stood tall, her robe flowing in waves of silver and violet, commanding attention with every subtle movement. Beside her, Jaren Holt adjusted his uniform. The human suit was simple, modest compared to Lasara's grandeur, but he stood taller than he had ever felt before. Today, he was not just a technician. Today, he represented the bridge between species, between tradition and change. Whispers ran through the crowd. Humans rarely stood in the grand atrium, and none had ever been recognized as a formal partner in the Volan family. The shock on some faces was almost visible. Sirith Volan sat in the council seats, her jaw tight, silver hair gleaming sharply under the lights. Her eyes flicked to Jaren, then to Lasara, her expression a mix of rage, disbelief, and reluctant admiration. An elder stepped forward, his pale blue skin almost luminescent in the ambient light. Matriarch Lasara Volan and Jaren Holt of Earth. Present yourselves. Lasara's hand brushed against Jaren's briefly. It was a simple gesture, but it carried weight. Trust, alliance, and unspoken understanding. He felt the current between them, subtle but undeniable. We are here, Lasara announced, her voice resonant and commanding, to formalize the bond between my family and this human. Not as a challenge to tradition, but as an acknowledgement that strength, courage, and understanding can cross worlds and customs. Jaren swallowed, his pulse steadying as he stepped closer. I stand here willingly, he said, voice strong. Not as an outsider. Not as a subject. But as a partner. To Lasara Volan. To her family. To the future we can build together. A hush fell over the chamber. Even some of the most conservative council members leaned forward, listening intently. Cirith rose abruptly, her silver eyes flashing. This is impossible. Humans cannot hold authority within the family. Tradition is being violated. Lasara's gaze met hers, unyielding. The rules exist to serve connection, not power. Today, we honor both tradition and understanding. Jaren Holt is recognized as bonded, legally, formally, and completely. He is my partner, co-guardian of our family holdings. The chamber erupted, voices rising, some cheering, some shouting, others in stunned silence. But in the middle of the chaos, Jaren and Lasara shared a quiet moment, hands clasped, eyes locked. They had survived intrigue, manipulation, and fear together. Now, they had emerged united, stronger than ever. The elder raised his hands, calling for order. By the authority of this council and the laws of the Volan family, this bond is valid and binding. Jaren Holt is now a formal member of the family holdings, recognized fully as partner to matriarch Lasara Volan. Applause erupted across the chamber. Some of the onlookers cheered, others whispered among themselves, but all eyes were drawn to the pair. Lasara squeezed Jaren's hand. Her eyes softened, a rare vulnerability breaking through the usual steel of command. You did this, human, she said, her voice almost a whisper. You found the way to make it work. He smiled, feeling a rush of pride, not just for himself, but for humanity. We did it. Together. The stars outside the massive viewport of the atrium reflected in their eyes, a silent promise of a future they would navigate side by side. For the first time, Jaren felt the full weight of human resilience, clever, daring, and unyielding even in a galaxy that thought it could be subdued. Lasara leaned slightly closer, their foreheads almost touching. The tension between them was electric but restrained, a delicate intimacy built on trust and shared struggle. From this day forward, she murmured, whatever challenges come, we face them as partners. Jaren nodded, feeling the truth of the statement resonate through him. Partners, he echoed. The chamber's lights glimmered around them. The storm outside the gas giant below seemed distant now, insignificant compared to the fire they had forged within themselves. Calyx Station had witnessed the impossible, a human standing beside a matriarch, recognized not as a subject or a curiosity, but as a force equal in courage, intelligence, and determination. And somewhere deep inside, Jaren knew this was only the beginning. The future stretched before them, vast, uncertain, and thrilling. But for the first time in his life, he was ready, not just to survive, but to thrive. The stars outside sparkled like a promise. Humanity had won a place among the galaxies. And Jaren Holt had won something far more extraordinary, a partner, a purpose, and a place he could truly call home.